Other thing that I want to point out on the underlay that I have here, and it is mentioned on today's exercise sheet as well, is the idea of contour lines on our sketches. And we've touched on this before. We even think back to week 3 where we were looking at the fruit sketches, where you kind of put those contour lines to simulate where it might be sliced through a section. You see on this sketch here, I've put these really light lines on the overlay that I've done, just tracing through the center and a few of the key points and where a radius starts and stops. And that just helps the viewer understand that form a little bit more as well without having any shading on there. So we're going to talk more about contour lines over the coming weeks. To render this one up, I'm going to imagine again that the light source is coming off from the upper left, and we'll use the grey markers, just a few grey markers and a black marker as well. Don't have to have a Copic, that could be a Sharpie or anything like that as well. So think back to the cube sketches that we did a little while ago that you rendered up in grey with the paint by numbers. We're going to apply the same principle here, except the challenge this time is we've now got a cylinder that we are thinking about as well. And this transition between where we go from one plane to then wrapping it around into a cylinder and then getting some shading there is going to be a little bit of the challenge on this one. All right, so let's hit the left-hand face with grey first, and I'm going to start off with just a C3, and again planning where you want to drive the marker on the page before you just start applying the colour is suggested. So how are you going to drive it around? Now I'm stopping the C3 just there where that radius is, and quickly trying to apply the grey through all of the faces that are on this headband section facing off to the left before the marker dries, and we end up with streaks. Okay, so we just get that all in there and let that dry. Now while I've got the C3 here, I'm thinking about this is a cylinder. If the light is coming from the top left, then this cylindrical section on the ear cups, both sides, they're going to pick up some light. So where I've got my contour line at the halfway point on both sides, I'm then going to come back in now with the C3 and render that on both sides. Okay, and on this side here, this is actually going to end up in some shadow if you think about it. So I'm going to just leave this section of the ear cup alone for a moment and then come back and maybe add some shadow once I've got a bit more tone in. For the right hand side faces now, I'm going to come in with my C5 and hit the section that is going to be the darkest and populate that, drive the marker around to try and avoid streaking as much as I can. And while this is still wet, I'm now going to come in with the C3 and try to gradiate that, get them to blend together, the C5 and the C3, and I'm sketching in applying the color in a way that it's heading back to the vanishing point to try and just fade that out to make it look like it's wrapping around. So a bit like we did with some of the cylinder stuff earlier, applying the marker strokes and streaking it deliberately to give it a feel that it's helping indicate the direction while also indicating a bit of form there as well. And I'm going to come back and blend that a little bit more in a little bit. Now this underside of the headband, if the light's coming from the top left, then the underside here is going to be in shadow, and that vertical face is not going to be as dark. So for starters, I'm just going to apply that grey fill the whole space up, and then come back in and give that a bit more tonal variation once the marker is dried a little bit. And hopefully by now you're getting pretty good at rotating the chisel tip around to save time. But if there's little spots that you can't quite hit, that's what the fine tip is there for, is just to come back in afterwards and just touch up those little spots that are a little bit hard to get to. And then the last bit is with my C2. If the light's coming from the left-hand top, then just for effect, I want to give the radius at the back just a bit of fall off, just a little touch there. And I'm also going to come back in and just blend out this a little bit more, this radius closest to us on the headband, just to help build that gradation there as well, just to fade that out. So you can see what I'm doing there, just hitting the page quite lightly with the C2 and really just flicking it and blending it out. While that's drying, I'm going to come back in and give the dark side here another coat of the darker marker, or darkest marker that I'm using. And then while that is wet again, I'm going to hit that with the C3 just to get that blending as much as I can again. And then I've got the side of the ear cup here, which is facing off to the right as well. So I actually want to leave this button that I've put in here. I'm not going to make that as dark because I'm going to deliberately use the grey to indicate that it's a different material. It's not going to communicate the type of material. It's just going to communicate that it might be, maybe that's, in my plan would be that's a metallic and this is a black plastic in reality. So I'll just complete that side of the ear cup. And these fiddly circular sections make it a little bit difficult to drive your marker without getting the streaking, but yeah, just make a plan before you hit it, do a test before you hit it. And again, I'm just trying to send those strokes back towards the vanishing point to help fill that in. All right, now I'm looking up here. That would be in a bit of shadow, so we don't know how to create shadows super accurately, but what we can do is just guesstimate it, give a bit of a feel of a shadow there. So if the light's coming from that direction, I'm going to say there's going to be a shadow that's rolling off that way, and just hitting that with my mid-tone marker and leaving the radius with a little bit of white there. All right, now I'm looking at the underside here as well. I'm going to just give that another layer, help it look like it's rounded, and same there as well. And while I'm looking at that side there as well, I might just hit that with the C2 just to give the faces closest to us, but also this radius here, just where that starts to blend, we just give that another hit of grey as well, just with the C2 though, where it's closest to us, so we define that a bit more, and then off to the distance, I don't worry about doing that. It's really to bring the focus onto this front 3/4 section of the sketch. And just a few flicks here and there. All right, so that's getting pretty close to done. If you don't want to use black for the padded ear cups themselves, that's okay, but I'm going to actually use black and just completely fill that in, because this is going to indicate again that it's a different material without going into communicating the type of material that it is. And then I'm going to use my white pencil to give this a bit of colour. So let's try something here. We're going to go with our darkest grey that we're using on the side face. And we're going to do that. And then hit the outside perimeter with the black. This may or may not work. Let's see how we go. And while that's still wet, I'm going to hit it with that darker marker again to get them bleeding in together. And that inside, there's going to be like a mesh in here, so I want to indicate that's a different material again, so that's where we'll use the grey. And we just hit this with a bit of the black again, just under there. So we're trying to work quickly and efficiently, just bleed that all together, because I'm going to use my white pencil to come back in and make that one pop out. Last thing I want to do is this side, I want to add a bit more, a bit like we did with the red cube earlier today, where we added some faux reflections in there. So I want to do that with this one as well. So let's put some, just to get a bit more visual interest and help that surface read, hitting it with the mid-tone marker. So this will make it look a little bit less like a flat image. And let's do the C3 as well. Just keep layering that up. And you recall I was talking about this little button here. I'm just going to hit that with a C2, and it's like a dished out, scalloped out piece for what I did. So everything that's facing down on that button, I'm going to give that a bit of a shading, and then everything that's facing up is not going to get anything there. All right, just want to give that padded ear cup just a little bit more attention with the dark marker, because then I'm going to hit it with pencil once that's all dry. Now, while I've asked for a grey marker sketch, doesn't mean you can't put a little bit of colour on there if you want to. I want to indicate that this is a button, and it's got a bit of a glow ring around the button, and maybe that flat platform section there as well glows a little bit. So I'm going to just use a red felt tip and add a little bit of red onto that button. Just a pen that you've probably got on your desk or in your toolbox, a coloured pen, just to make that jump out a little bit. And so that little detail now, that's really become quite a focal point on the sketch. All right, that's probably enough of the marker. So now I'm going to come and hit it with just some of the black and white pencil. Just pop out some of these kind of reflections that we put on here. Give them a little bit more emphasis with the black pencil. Same on this side here, so you can smooth out some of the grey marker and add a bit of texture with this. Same at the bottom here, just where that starts to roll around, we just smooth that out a little bit with the black pencil. Same at the back. And then on the underside here as well, where that radius is, I'm going to just smooth that out as well, but make it gradiate down just a little bit more, so that's hopefully starting to pop quite a bit for you all there. Alright, could come back in and just hit some of the edges with the pencil as well, just to make it look a little bit softer, like there's a small radius. And that just softens that line work. As always, fine line between overworking your sketch, so yeah, just keep looking at it and going, do I need to do that, or is it already working enough? Alright, and now I'm going to come in with the white pencil and pick up some of the radii. And we just pick up some of those edges, but this headphone cup is what I'm really interested in hitting with the white pencil over the black, and even if you're just using a Sharpie or any black marker, doesn't have to be a Copic, expensive one, then we can start to give that a bit of shape. I'll scan these for you afterwards because that might not be showing up on the image as well as we would like on screen. All right, do the same thing on this side. And same up there. So we're using the white pencil to pop that back out, and it almost looks a bit like a matte material, but no question it's a different material with the colouring that we've used there. And I'll do the same thing on the inside there of those cups. And just a little bit of black. There as well. And maybe just pick up a little bit of a radius there as well. And I'll come back in with the pencil because those contour lines that I had in there, they've now disappeared, but I'm hitting those contour lines with the white pencil just to pop those back in there as well. And then just making that edge there. Now there's something I want to show you all. It's the reward for the 7 of you that stayed back. Sometimes we want to add texture. Now you don't have to do this, but if you're interested in this, you can buy these texture boards. Yeah? Yeah, so lots of different brands out there. But it doesn't even have to be a texture board. You could also start to collect a whole set of sample little swatches for yourself. Things like flywire, for example. Scraps of takeaway containers that have texture on them. Cut them out, and then you've got a really nice library of things that you can then, over the top, you kind of hit that. And it just adds a really subtle texture. Slide your page ever so slightly, and then you can start to just get just a hint of a texture on there. You remember we were doing this with some of the shoe stuff? We were just kind of not doing the entire texture, but you were just kind of hitting little areas of it. So they're out there. Amazon sells these, but yeah, like I said, just start looking at some of those things you might even be just throwing away and just go, oh yeah, that's got a really neat texture on it. I'm going to use that and just stick it underneath. No different to when you were a kid, probably, if you ever had coins and you just did the kind of pencil sketches or rubbings of coins. Now, another thing that you might have seen on some of the sketches that we haven't necessarily rolled out yet is the idea of putting a vignette behind the object that we're rendering. What do I mean by that? Well, it's often just a rectangle where you might want to make the image jump off the page a little bit more by having a shape behind your sketch. Now, this always makes me a bit nervous when I do it live, because if I mess this up, the whole sketch is done. Once you're up to speed with Photoshop, I'd actually recommend, you kind of scan your sketches and do this, but it's the idea of putting a shape behind the object that complements it and just really makes it jump off the page a little bit more. So in this case, I'm going to use blue marker, and we're going to fill this rectangle in the background with, and the reason I chose this one is that this marker's a little bit dry, but so it adds a really nice texture to the page. What we used to do, and you can still do this, is we would you would scalpel out your final rendering, so the grey bit, and then do your vignette, and then stick them both on a new page and stick it down with spray glue. But yeah, Photoshop or doing what I'm doing here works equally well. And so that vignette is there just to make this jump off the page a little bit more, gives the whole page a bit more depth. And yeah, it just makes that jump out. Again, you don't want your vignette to be more interesting than the sketch itself, so don't overdo it. Just another layer on there to make that jump out. What do we think of the vignette? We're on board with that? Not convinced? And the last thing I want you to start doing as well is signing your work when it's done, so that people can't come along and just steal your stuff. Okay, so that one's done. That's our grey. Long story behind that one, Angus. It says Deng Bao.